We're happy to present a feature that has widely been requested by carrier players. While not controlling aircraft, you'll be able to manually control the secondary guns of your carriers. This provides an additional layer of gameplay for them. For example, in cases when you must confront an enemy that has gotten too close or when you run out of planes during the late game. In the case of carriers with mixed secondary armaments, you'll be able to control the largest caliber guns. They will quite literally become the main caliber, while the smaller caliber guns will be considered your secondaries. While operating aircraft, all guns will be controlled by AI as usual. If a carrier doesn't have any secondary guns, it will operate as it did before. While you manually control the guns, they will have greater range and precision when then controlled by AI. Okay, so secondaries are more effective if you manually control them. Makes sense. The main battery guns on aircraft carriers will have comparable characteristics to those of destroyers of their tier, but with reduced accuracy. Okay, so the main battery guns on aircraft carriers will have comparable characteristics to those of destroyers. I don't know, so like let's say Midway has 127mm guns on the side, but it'll be slightly reduced. Okay, so when controlling a carrier, you must manually use the damage control party consumable. Once you launch your planes, the consumable will become automatic again. Ugh. Why is this? Guys, we're not even done, and this is just a lot of information to take in. That's all I'm saying. So here you can see you're manually controlling. Looks like this is the same game we were watching in the video. You're in Midway. You have a destroyer that's run up on you, and they're showing because you have. Yeah, so now it shows you the high explosive shells. And so, yeah, you can incapacitate the torpedoes. That's not a permanent, just temporary. And you can see the secondaries all firing right here at the moment. Looks like there's some up over here, but I don't know if that's the case. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see 6 firing there, or the smoke blooms. So now you have something a little. So you're more protected against destroyer players as a CV player if they're running up on you. Okay, I'll give my thoughts on that more in a minute. Changes to surface ships. One of the issues we see in the game is that there are several AA options, but they don't feel powerful and often do the same thing. More of a ship's AA defenses are weak by default. Using extra tools doesn't make much difference. They are only useful if the ship had strong AA weaponry from the start. We want to provide more tools for surface ships to protect themselves and their allies against carriers, so let's dive straight into it. Really? So rather than just having AA in fighters, now we have manual AA, updated defensive AA fire, automatic AA, and fighters. Alright, manual AA. Only affects planes at low altitude. Covers the whole AA area around the ship. Used reactively. Deals percentage of damage within AA range proportional to the squadron's health. Deals percentage of damage within AA range proportional to the squadron's health. So you deal different types of damage depending on the squadron's health? Different percentages of damage? That's proportional to the squadron's health. Okay. Manual AA. We've improved several aspects of the priority sector. Okay, so this is what manual AA is. Priority sector, apparently. It won't just be a sector anymore. When activated, it will cover the whole area, AA area around the ship, and will now be called manual AA. Okay, so what they're saying here is that priority sector is gone. That won't be a thing anymore. Now it's going to be called manual AA because it won't be just you're prioritizing an AA sector on starboard or port side. It'll be both. It'll be the whole area around the ship. Okay. Like the current implementation, manual AA can be activated with the press of a button, and it takes effect within your AA range. So this is like if you have the default key, it should be your O key, and then I have a special key on my mouse on the side that I use to activate priority sector AA. Manual AA can be activated with the press a button, takes effect within your A range. It instantly deals a percentage of damage per. Oh, it's that instantaneous dealing of a certain percentage of damage right when you activated it in proportion to the squadron's health. In other words, it should be used reactively to deal with burst damage to enemy planes. Manual AA will not increase AA damage. So the only... Okay, let me finish reading this. In previous iterations, we changed priority sector to active concealment. A completely new concept. Yeah, I remember reading about this. One of its main features was the ability to prevent planes from spotting if they entered its range when activated. After gathering data and feedback from the closed test, we chose to abandon this idea. Yeah, it honestly sounded really dumb, and it's just making your brain hurt more. The mechanics felt too complicated. It felt too complicated. Guys, what we're doing now is not even more complicated. But that was pretty dumb. It was pretty complicated, and from what I could read and understand of it. And players had to interact with it constantly. After some consideration, we decided it would be better to move this effect to defensive A fire to highlight the unique role of the consumable. It also help aircraft carriers. They will know that only ships with this specific consumable will be able to prevent them from spotting. We'll talk more about this in the defensive AA fire section, okay? So what they're saying is with the manual AA, when you, well, what we know as prioritize our sector of AA, we enforce it on starboard or port side. This, you don't deal increased damage. Your A will not increase damage. The only damage it does is it's like a burst. Yeah, as they say, it's a burst damage to enemy planes. So if I'm in Minotaur at 6.9 kilometer AA, enemy midway flies in, he's 6.7, and I activate manual AA, what we know as priority sector, then I'll do a burst damage where I'll take away a certain percentage of that squadron's, attack squadron's hit points, and that's it. Like, it's just a one and done kind of thing. So it invites you to be paying attention if you are getting striked, that you're not tunnel visioning, but you try to use, I don't know if you call this a skill or mechanic or what, but yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and read updated defensive AA fire. They've kind of got these things all spun around here. No, they just read manual AA. Let's read automatic AA. Okay, only affects planes at low altitude. Progress passively increases as your A progress passively increases as your A deals damage to planes. So they're saying my A becomes more stronger. Activates automatically, works for an extended period. Am I filling a progress bar? Increases AA damage, increases damage caused by manual AA, reduces manual AA cooldown time. Okay. Okay, they don't have a picture with manual. Automatic AA. Another issue has often been voiced by the community. It can feel extremely frustrating to be targeted by an aircraft for a prolonged period of time. We want to disincentivize aircraft carriers from relentlessly focusing on a single target. So we're adding another defensive tool for surface ships. While your AA is shooting enemy aircraft, a special progress bar will passively charge up. This progress isn't time limited, so even if your AA weaponry isn't shooting at enemy aircraft for a certain period, progress will stay the same and it will not decay. Once your progress reaches 100%, a passive bonus will automatically activate, unless your AA is disabled. This effect will last for several minutes, and you won't reset if you disable your AA. It provides the following effects: bonus to AA damage, bonus to damage caused by manual AA, reduction in manual AA cooldown. Alright, so let's look at this. Okay, so here you see this little progress bar that's going around in a circle. So the more your AA is shooting, this progress fills up, and once it has filled up, then you get the bonus to the AA damage, bonus damage by manual AA, again, what we know as priority sector, and there's a reduction in your manual AA cooldown time, so your priority sector comes off cooldown quicker, basically. Okay, updated defensive AA fire. only affects planes at low altitude. Used preemptively. Preemptively. So they're saying before an aircraft flies into your AA range. It increases the ship's AA range to 7 kilometers. What is that? Is that across the board? That any ship, like I don't remember, let's say for Sherman, I don't remember if it's 5.8 or it's 6. And then that one would just bump right up to 7. Or Minotaur is already 6.9, and then still just be 7 kilometers. So it's just a locked-in thing regardless of ship. It's not a ratio, which that would be really infuriating to try to remember, right? Increases AA damage. If activated before the planes enter the extended AA range, it prevents them from spotting any ship's planes. Boosts automatic AA progress to 50%. So they're saying it boosts this, right? Yeah, it boosts this up to 50% filled. So let's say you're 75% filled, then it'll just automatically fill the whole thing. Okay, let's read. In this iteration, several major changes have been applied to defensive A fire consumable. During the close testing, defensive A fire could reach planes in travel mode, but we decided to remove this feature. Now it can only affect planes at low altitude. Do you understand why I said that I'm not really interested in doing the test? Like with submarines, this is what they did. They tested this, they scrapped it. We replaced it with something else, we scrapped that. So it's just, you're learning all these new possible gimmicks and magic pixie dust items that they're going to introduce into the game, and then they don't introduce into the game, right? So then you're like, then because it's like studying for a test, okay? So you study for the test, your professor says, this is what we're going to be testing you on. And then you take time and you study, and while you're studying and preparing for the test the professor emails you and says, hey class, we'll no longer be testing you on this portion of the material. We'll now only be focusing on this, or now I have added this into what I want you to study on that's related, but it's not the exact same thing, right? So then it mentally becomes confusing because you're like, wait, what was it that still are they keeping? And what is it that what are they keeping and what are they not keeping? What's changed or what's been altered into different ways? So this becomes really confusing. This is why I got fed up with submarines during the testing, because they didn't know what they were doing. Wargaming didn't know how to put submarines in the game, and I'll still argue they don't know how to put submarines in the game still, because they keep changing how submarines work, right? Now you have the nerf, depending on how far away an enemy ship is from the submarine, like they're trying to reduce, take away shotgunning. So if you try to shotgun, launch torpedoes, within 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers, like Gato, then you would reduce damage, you won't do the full damage, right? So they're still trying to figure out how do we make submarines work in World of Warships, right? And a lot of this just feels similar to me, so I'm kind of agitated a little bit when I'm trying to be a content creator for you guys, and I'm trying to go through and a player of World of Warships and just try to explain these changes to you. But now I've only begun to pay attention because now they've gone from closed test to open test. I want you guys to kind of understand what's happening, because if they implement these changes like in the game, like 2 updates from now, then it's like we've already talked about it. You've begun to familiarize yourself with the material. It's just frustrating when you don't know what material to familiarize yourself with if you don't know what they're ultimately going to implement. So this is just a very long, drawn-out process basically here in the game. Once activated, defensive A fire increases both the AA range to 7 kilometers for all ships and damage of your ship. I think most ships that have defensive A fire consumable, they usually at least have the 5.8 kilometer AA. Because it'd be weird for them to give a ship defensive A fire that only has like 3 kilometer AA, but I don't think that's the thing in the game unless I'm wrong. Don't think there's any ship with that. Additionally, it will completely prevent planes from spotting. However, defensive A fire should be used preemptively and not reactively, as the effect will only trigger on enemy planes if they enter the expanded AA range while the consumable is active. Under the effect, planes won't be able to spot any ships or planes themselves, but they still can see ships spotted by allies as well as shell tracers and AA bubbles. The effect ends only once you return to high altitude or back to the carrier. I think I saw... okay, let's look at the picture. Last says you activate defensive fire, the automatic AA progress bar will rise to 50%. We capped it at 50% because we don't want players with defensive AA to always have access to automatic AA. This way, players can shorten the time frame without making first strikes and extremely frustrating for carriers. To indicate that it's been activated, defensive AA fire will have special visual effects. Okay, so now what they've done here, so let's say if you have 70% and I activate defensive AA fire, then my progress bar won't fill. Is that what they're saying? Because it's not just to fill in wherever you want. It's only when I'm beneath 50%. So if I'm at 45%, then I'll instantly jump up to 50%. I think that's what they're saying. This way, players can shorten the time frame without making first strikes extremely frustrating for carriers. To indicate that it's been activated, defensive fire will have special visual effects. What's this picture about? Okay, so here you go. Here's a good example. So you can see this eye. I think in the video they said is like squadron stunned or something like that. So here you see all the AA, and you see the flak. You see it's coming generally from this direction. So your fighters could still, you could still make an attack run with your Bearcat planes here, but you might miss. Or you just recall the planes back to the carrier. Because this guy, he activated his AA, defensive AA, before the planes flew into it. If he had activated it after the planes had entered his expanded AA bubble, that's 7 kilometers. So let's say it's this way. He saw the planes coming 8 kilometers away. He activated defensive AA fire. The skill works, the enemy CV player can't see him. Okay, let's say the enemy aircraft carrier, let's say it's a Worcester that's sitting down here, right? And Worcester, the player, he has, I don't remember his AA ranges. I don't know if it's also 6.9. Let's just say for the heck of it, it's only a 5.8 kilometer AA. But he doesn't activate the defensive AA fire until 6.5 kilometers, right? Because he's 5.8, defensive AA fire bumps him up to 7 kilometers. The planes have entered already at 6.5 kilometers, and then he activates defensive AA fire. He'll have the effects of defensive AA fire, but the CEV player will still be able to spot him because he didn't preemptively activate defensive AA. Rather, he reactively initiated defensive AA fire, okay? So then it doesn't work. Okay, so I don't know if you guys know, but that's totally historically accurate. Totally historically accurate. Back in World War II, you know, you'd have these Midway bombers flying in on these Japanese ships, and then there was this magic button that the Zhao would use, and then the Midway attack bombers could no longer see the Zhao because he pressed the funny button. Right? I'm annoyed. Fighters can attack planes at both high altitudes and low altitudes. Is that it? Is that all? Okay, let's go into summary time. This video is so long. I'm so sorry, guys. There's so much to mentally wrap around. It's like starting a Monday. Okay, here's the reality. Okay, Wargaming has needed to do something with CV spotting, AA defenses, and being focused for years. Ever since they had that main CV rework back in 2019, Wargaming has been needing to do something. They said, how did they say it? We've been working on addressing several issues and interactions between aircraft carriers and surface ships highlighted by community over the past few years. Okay, how about you say 5 years, okay? Not make it like sound like just 2 or 3 years. Like we've been saying, many have been saying this for years. So something has been needing to happen. And I'm gonna give Wargaming props that they're finally addressing the issue of spotting AA defenses and being focused down by any CV player. Okay, something needs to be done. Now the question becomes, what exactly? I'm still of the mind that you should just do mini-map spotting only. Meaning that the CV, if he can still spot whatever ship he wants to on the map, just as he does now, but allies who do not visually see that ship, that they're not within the standard tech ability range of that enemy Yamato, like they're 17 kilometers away. On the map they see, their mini-map they see, oh, there's a battleship over here, my CV teammate has spotted him, but I don't know, it's just a battleship. That's the icon I see on the map, but I don't know who, right? Unless the CV player types in chat, hey, Yamato is over here, B2, whatever, right? And then only once that enemy, let's say it's a GK, gets within the standard tech ability range of that enemy Yamato player, or he's within the smoke, the gun bloom of the Yamato can spot him, right? Rather, right now, the issue you have with, of course, the spotting is that, yeah, Yamato could be 25 kilometers away, and as long as you have the range and the spotting ability, you know, you can just lob shells across the map at whatever ship you see. Like if a destroyer is trying to get close and he gets spotted by CV and there's no other ships detecting him, you know, only on the minimap do you see, oh, there's a destroyer really close to me. I need to take evasive maneuvers, right? Being map aware, being minimap aware. So let's make it minimap spotting, right? Now, we're doing all of this. Why do we have to do all of this when you could just do minimap spotting? Okay, I think that would just be much more simplistic. You could focus like, hey, let's do minimap spotting. Let's just do that. And then let's now begin to look at the A defenses and focus firing. Let's see how spotting takes place and then changes the game, and then look at A defense and focus fire training, okay? It's never fun to be focused down by CV. I've been focused down by CV plenty of times. Like I have this Salem versus, I think, a Malta video, and just like, and which I didn't mind because Salem has pretty powerful AA. You have defensive AA fire with Salem. But I was behind an island and I didn't have other enemy players shooting me the whole time, so I could maneuver freely. As soon as you have to maneuver, it's like, do I turn nose in to the torpedo strike, causing me to go broadside to the Yamato, 14 kilometers away, spotting me, right? That's the issue you had with the spotting in combination with the focus fire, right? I don't know, guys. I don't know, guys and girls. Something's needing to be changing, but I don't know if this is it. Because now you've complicated the game for the aircraft carrier players, where back years ago, the devs told the community contributors, well, we don't want aircraft carriers to be a frustrating experience. We want it to be a comfortable playing experience for aircraft carrier players. I guess my question to you aircraft carrier players that watch me, even though you may know I don't like CVs in the game, but we can still have a conversation despite me not liking, right? My opinion isn't the end all. But how do you feel with the changes? Do you feel... I think the challenge is that, you know, some of you CV players are part Unicum players, maybe there's average, and then there's maybe bad players with CVs, or you would consider yourself a bad CV player. I'm not saying you are, you're just saying that to yourself. Does this become frustrating for you to remember how these all work when we're talking about altitude, latitude, travel mode, attack mode, recon mode, and then you're also now having to, like, okay, I can't take control of my manual secondaries to deal with those pesky destroyers that run up on me. But then now you also have to keep in mind how the AA, whether it's manual A, automatic A, updated defensive A fire, when fighters are able to attack you, this, that, and the other, does it mentally just like bother you? Okay. Or you're like, this is great, it's fine. It'll take me a couple weeks, but I'll get my head wrapped around it. We're good to go, right? Maybe that's just the case. The manual control of the secondaries, I don't know how I feel about this. On one hand, I can understand... I understand on the behalf of the CV player, like, this is probably, like, really nice in the sense of when you feel defenseless. Okay, let me finish that thought. Wow, 1 through 12, 15 guns? Is that how many it says? Or 1, 3, 5, 7, oh, okay, skip the other one. Something like that. I don't know. You know, okay, so in the perspective of a CV player, maybe it's really frustrating. You're sitting back at E2, and a Kleber comes running up on you. Or a YOLO Emilio, I don't know. Ideally, YOLO Emilio is smoked up. You know, now do you feel like, hey, I can now deal with that pesky destroyer? Now I'm really interested to see the reload time. Here I can see the highest is 3.3 seconds, so maybe 3.4, 3.5 for midway. Now you feel like you have the power and capability to do so. On the other hand, as the Kleber player or YOLO Emilio player running up on you, which this might be more of me, I feel like I'd be a little bit frustrated by this because you're a CV player, you're out away from your teammates, you know, there's no destroyer, you don't have a nearby battleship or a nearby cruiser to defend you, you're a sitting duck. I've caught you. Like naval warfare tactics, you always were protecting the CV, right? They always had an escort. You wouldn't want CVs alone because it was suicide, because they were rather defenseless. You know, they would actually detonate. CVs would detonate. You cannot detonate a CV in World of Warships, as to why I have no idea. Because it's covered in exhaust and you have fuel, weaponry all across and throughout the ship, right? So I feel like if I catch you out, you don't have enough defense, I should be able to kill you. That's how I feel. So I'm like, is this catering too much to the CV player, right? But at the same time, like, you shouldn't be sitting still. I see too many CV players. I'll be spotting this cap. I'll be flipping this cap. CV player sitting right here. He's not reacting. He's not removing. He's not moving his CV. He's not sending his attack squadrons to come spot me. He's just blind. Okay. So on one hand, I see from the CV on the CV players that this is probably a welcome change if you like playing CVs. On the other hand, I'm a little frustrated because I feel like if I catch you out, then I should be able to kill you. But at the same time, now it becomes a risk for said DD player to rush up. Is the CV player paying attention or not? Can I get close enough to run up on him and dump torpedoes? Now, the argument, of course, you can make here is like, well, Havaros, not Havaros, that's a bad example. Shimakaze player should just dump his torpedoes outside of his standard detectability range. Like Yugamo's like, I think 5.5. Then Yugamo player should only get 5.7 kilometers close and dump torpedoes, right? That's simple. He shouldn't run up on me in my midway like an ape, right? So this might cause more destroyer players to be more mindful, where they're not running up as much as they used to. If they know, you'll switch to your guns, right? But you have to stop whatever you're doing, right? It comes at a cost, so you're not able to get strikes off on other parts of the map. The other enemy team is able to move up, do what they need to. They don't have a CV focusing them, because now you're having to deal with this. So it serves as a distraction. So I don't know. There's a lot of pros and cons. I'm just thinking out loud. So maybe it means if a destroyer player does catch you out, like in a Yugamo, your conceal is 5.5. Then that means I just respect you have secondaries now, manual secondaries. You can kill me quite quickly, possibly. So I'm going to dump my torpedoes at 5.7 kilometers and I'll disengage. And because you're still sitting there and you're blind, now you're dead, right? That's all there is to it. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll be interested to see. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's fantastic. This would be a change, you know, as I talk out loud. I'm kind of interested to see how it comes into place. Changes to surface ships to the AA. I welcome this. Changes to maybe AA more stronger, but again, I just feel like this is a lot of changes. It's another change, so I don't know. Let me know your guys' comments in below. This video's probably gone too long. I don't know if I need to do part 2 or not. I'll see how long it is once I finish recording. But if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see me more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Until next time, take care.